So the topic today is what I'll be talking about is the electron transport chain and biological oxidation. So electron transport chain and biological oxidation. This is going to be my topic today. So what is biological oxidation? Biological oxidation is the combination of oxidation, reduction, transformation of substances in living organism. Oxidation reduction reactions are those which take place with a change in the oxidation state of atoms through the redistribution of electrons between them. So, in oxidation means the loss of electrons. So, a compound A, it loses its electrons and it goes to compound B. So, it loses its electron and goes to compound B, and this compound B eventually it becomes oxidized after it gains electrons. So this oxidized compound, it gains electrons and it becomes reduced, and this electron, where once it goes into compound B, this compound B becomes reduced, and compound A, after losing its electrons, it becomes oxidized, and this is biological oxidation. So this is an oxidation reduction system. So what is a redox reaction? In a redox reaction, one of the reacting molecule loses electrons and is said to be oxidized, while another reacting molecule gains electrons, the ones lost by the first molecule, and it's said to be reduced. So the organic molecule that includes two hydrogen atoms, this proton, it has got two protons, it gives its electrons over here, the protons over here, and this oxidation, this molecule becomes oxidized, and the one which gains the hydrogen and the electrons, that becomes reduced. This is known as redox reaction. Now what is redox potential or reduction potential? We are talking about redox potential or reduction potential. Now it is measured by the ease with which electrons flow from one species to another. Consider this coupling, where you have copper in a aqueous copper sulfate solution, there is a porous disc, and you have zinc. Zinc is it's a zinc sulfate solution, and you have, these are connected by an electrode, and there is a measuring which current flows. So you can see that there is a current flowing. What is current? It's a flow of electrons. So you see electrons flowing from zinc towards the copper anode. You can see that so the reduction potential, it is the ease with which electrons flow from, say, this copper to zinc. So the ease with which electron flows from copper to zinc, or rather from zinc to copper, the ease with which electrons flow from zinc to copper from one species to the other species is the reduction potential. The more difference in the potential between them, the more ease with which electrons can move from one to the other, then that is the redox potential. So reduction potential or redox potential or oxidation reduction potential or EH, it measures the tendency of a chemical species to acquire electrons and thereby be reduced. Reduction potential is measured in volts or millivolts. Each species has its own intrinsic reduction potential. The more positive the potential, the greater the species affinity for electrons, or the more the species tends to be reduced. So the more positive it is, the more hydrogen and electrons it will release to the other species. So we will have a look at the what is the standard reduction potential. What is standard reduction potential? So the standard reduction potential is the reduction potential of a molecule under specific standard conditions. Standard reduction potential can be useful in determining the directionality of a reaction. A solution with a higher reduction potential or more positive than the new species will have a tendency to gain electron from the new species, that is to be reduced by the new oxidizing species, and the solution with lower or more negative reduction potential will have a tendency to lose electrons to the new species. Just the opposite, right? The one which has got positive, which is more positive than the new species, will have a tendency to gain electrons. It's positive, it will take the negative. It will have a tendency to gain electron from the new species, and once it gains electrons, it will be reduced, and the other species from which it takes, that will be oxidized. And similarly, the other, it happens in the other way round. So there are for different compounds, there are different standard reduction potential. For example, glucose to pyruvate and 4 electrons released, it is minus 720 millivolts. NADH, NAD plus minus 320 millivolts. So it is NADH has got a greater reduction potential. It has got a higher reduction potential. Glucose has got a higher reduction potential. It will give electrons. It will have a the solution with higher reduction potential will have a tendency to gain electron from new species, that is to be reduced by the oxidizing by oxidizing the new species. So this will give more electrons, and NADH plus will accept more hydrogen. Okay, next is redox potential in the electron transport chain. We will look at the electron transport chain now. During the electron transport chain, based on the reduction potential, high energy electrons are transferred from one carrier to the other with loss of free energy in each step. There is a change in the reduction potential of the electron carriers, as the electron carriers are complex 1, complex 2, complex 3 and complex 4. The energy lost is used to pump H plus from the mitochondrial matrix to the intermembrane space. So NADH plus, when it goes faces complex 1, this is complex 1, you see complex 1 NADH, it has got a higher reduction, it releases electrons, and after it releases electrons, this energy is used to pump a hydrogen. It loses some energy, FADH2 less energy, then again it goes here, At each step, as redox potential becomes positive, the tendency to gain electrons become higher. So it was minus and it's going to plus. So as it goes below, the tendency to gain electron becomes more. So complex 2, complex 3 has got a higher tendency to gain electrons than complex 1. Complex 1 can of course give electrons much better. That is from NADH. Now let us look at the overview of the electron transport chain. So this is the this orange color region is the intermembrane space. This flesh colored is the mitochondrial matrix, and this is the inner mitochondrial membrane. The outer mitochondrial membrane is on the outer side over here. So what happens here is that you have certain complexes present. What are the complexes? You have complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4. So essentially the basically what are the complex 4, and there are 5. So in the first step, NADH, it enters into this first complex. It releases electrons. That electron passes through these different electron carriers. At each carrier, the electron is passed. Some energy is lost, and that energy which is taken is used to pump hydrogen which is inside the mitochondrial membrane to the outside. So you have mitochondrial high concentration of H plus in the interspace between the membranes, or the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. So this electron again passes, it goes from FADH2 in complex 2. FADH2, this electron is again released, it becomes FAD plus. Electron is released, and that also electron goes to this state. As the line goes below, as you see the line go below, that means it is losing energy. It is losing energy. So it is losing energy as it goes from here to here. So, and that energy which is lost, that is used to pump hydrogen ions from inside to the matrix to the intermembrane space. So the concentration of H plus ions becomes very high. Similarly, over here again electron gain, again loss of energy takes place, and that is used to pump hydrogen out. And now this hydrogen which is the 2 hydrogen is taken, and this electrons which is released, that is taken, and water is formed. And it traps the electrons. And this higher concentration of H plus, it drives this fifth complex, the ATP synthase, like a turbine. So water it comes inside the turbine, and this ATP synthase rotates, and because of that rotation of this molecule, that energy is utilized. ADP and PI are joined to form the high energy ATP. This energy is used to synthesize ATP. So this is an overview. So who are the compounds with high reducing potential? NAD plus 2 electrons plus H plus forms NADH. So this gets high tendency to get reduced, NAD plus. Then the next molecule is FADH2. They have got higher reducing potential. Now we must know what is proton motive force. So the transfer of hydrogen ions H plus is a proton through a proton pump generates an electrochemical gradient of protons called a proton motive force. So the more hydrogen H plus ions or proton, it is pumped from the matrix into the intermembrane space, and that is utilized and so the proton motive force or the H plus motive force to enter inside becomes higher, because the concentration of H plus in the intermembrane space is much higher, and so the concentration is higher, and this moves this ATP synthase molecule like a turbine, and that in a turbine energy is utilized to make ADP and PI, join them together and form that high energy ATP compound. The energy is taken from this proton gradient like a dynamo. There is a malate aspartate shuttle. The malate aspartate shuttle, sometimes simply the malate shuttle, is a biochemical system for translocating electrons produced during glycolysis across the semi-permeable inner membrane of the mitochondrial for oxidative phosphorylation in eukaryotes. These electrons enter the electron transport chain of the mitochondria via reduction equivalents to generate ATP. The shuttle system is required because the mitochondrial inner membrane is impermeable to NADH. NADH normally cannot enter into the inner mitochondrial through the inner mitochondrial membrane. So it needs a malate aspartate shuttle. So what it does? To circumvent this, malate carries the reducing equivalent across the membrane. So the aspartate, say for example aspartate as this oxaloacetate, NADH plus H plus is converted, it takes the hydrogen and electrons, oxaloacetate, and gives it to malate. Malate can then easily cross through the shuttle into the inner mitochondrial membrane, and then malate dehydrogenase will again take from NADH and it will regenerate back the NADH plus inside, and oxaloacetate will be formed again inside. Oxaloacetate is very negative, so it will not be able to penetrate the negative membrane layers here. It's unable to penetrate. It's highly charged molecule, so it gets converted into the less charged malate molecule, and malate gets inside, and the same enzyme convert this NADH which had been broken up will get back, it gets regenerated. So the inner mitochondria gets this NADH. Then you have the lactate shuttle. It also lactate shuttle also, or MCT1, this also has got the same function. From the cytosolic compartment, NADH plus H plus, it forms NAD plus, and pyruvate gets converted to lactate. Lactate enters it enters directly through the MCT1 channel, and then again this NADH plus is regenerated back, because the lactate becomes the carrier of your hydrogen ions. Lactate becomes the carrier. So we go to the next slide. Then you have the glyceraldehyde phosphate shuttle. What it does is it converts dihydroxyphosphate. From there, NADH plus H plus is converted into NAD plus, and that is converts this molecule to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. This molecule, when it regenerates back, it converts the FAD back to FADH2. It gets converted back. So this is another shuttle. So they are responsible for pushing inside the reducing equivalents inside the mitochondria. Now let us have a look at the complex one. It's like a gun. NADH, the enzyme's name is NADH dehydrogenase, this complex name. This is reduced, it passes the electron to another FMN, flavin mononucleotide. Then the electrons are passed from one complex to another. There are these iron sulfur center, it is passed over here, and it is given to quinoline, and this forms the reduced form of QH2. In this process, this electron which has been released, it loses energy, and that energy is used to pump 4 hydrogen ions outside, and here 2 hydrogen plus is taken from inside to QH2. In the next complex, what happens? This is succinate is converted to fumarate. It's in the Krebs cycle. This is where the electron transport chain and the Krebs cycle are released. There is a step where succinate is converted into fumarate in Krebs cycle. This takes place inside the mitochondrial matrix. This is the particular step which takes place. So this is where Krebs cycle and electron transport chain is linked directly in the complex 2. So in the process, FAD becomes FADH2. This FADH2 then passes the hydrogen and electrons to this heme iron center, which passes it to this heme center, and it takes 2 hydrogen and it again takes a molecule of Q and it becomes QH2. So you had 2 molecules of QH2 formed in complex 1. Here there is 1 more molecule of QH2 being formed. Now let us move to complex number 3. In the complex number 3, this 2 QH2, they release that electron which has been taken, it forms 2 Q, is regenerated back to a Q0 center. 4 electrons are released, 2 for each from each hydrogen. So 1 QH2 releases 2 electrons, so 2 QH2 will release 4 electrons. And in the process, it will this hydrogen which is taken up, this hydrogen, it will pump out 4 hydrogen, and this electron 1 will go to the FES center and 1 will go to the BL, then it will go to the BH center, then again at each step some energy is released, and then this center will take 2 hydrogen from inside the mitochondrial matrix and it will convert Q into QH2. So 1 more molecule of QH2 will be regenerated, and 2 electrons, high energy electrons which are over here, will pass through the cytochrome center, and oxidized cytochrome will form reduced cytochrome in this complex. Now we go to the next complex. Now the oxidized cytochrome, which were reduced cytochrome, 4 of these reduced cytochrome, 4 of these reduced cytochrome, 2 were formed, so you take 4 of these reduced cytochrome, become oxidized, and they reduce and they send 4 electrons. These electrons pass through copper iron carriers and they are removed outside, and 4 H plus is 4 more H plus is taken from the mitochondrial matrix, and oxygen is taken, and these 4 electrons together, the electrons make water, 2 molecules of water. At the same time, 4 hydrogen ions, this energy which this fall of energy which takes place when it goes from one carrier to another, that drives 4 more H plus ions to the mitochondrial matrix. The target is to get as much protons or H plus in the intermembrane space and as less H plus inside the mitochondrial matrix, so that there is a higher gradient of H plus outside and high concentration of H plus out in the intermembrane space and low in the mitochondrial matrix. So this is supposed to drive the turbine of ATP synthase. So in the 5th step, what happens? The H plus which is formed over here, this will start to enter. While it enters, this will make this move these units, these knob units will start to turn, and that energy, dynamic energy which is formed, that will be used to bind ADP and PI into ATP. Yes, yesterday's lecture you remember that it's a coupled reaction. The energy which ATP hydrolysis, it releases some energy, that energy has to be given back. So this, it is given back by this movement, the energy produced by the movement of this knob, and that ATP is regenerated back. So this is how the ATP synthase works. So the difference between substrate level and oxidative phosphorylation, a question comes. Substrate level phosphorylation refers to the formation of ATP from ADP and a phosphorylated intermediate, rather than from ADP and inorganic phosphate, PI, as is done in oxidative phosphorylation. The amount of ATP that is generated by glycolysis is relatively low. So this what it takes place over here, steps of oxidation, that is known as oxidative phosphorylation. And in the substrate level phosphorylation, a substrate is phosphorylated by an enzyme. ATP is formed when an enzyme transfers a phosphate group from a substrate to ADP, and over here ADP is phosphorylated and ATP is formed. Here ATP is broken down and the substrate is phosphorylated. Here ADP itself is phosphorylated. So this is the difference between substrate level and oxidative phosphorylation. So the next question is about the inhibitors and couplers. What are there are different inhibitors and couplers at different complexes are broken down by different couplers like cyanide, azide, carbon monoxide. They attack this cytochrome C oxidase or this complex 4. This is just this is where you take cyanide and die. This is the complex which is inhibited. You stop the electron transport chain. So there are different places where you can actually uncouple or separate. This this works independently, this works independently. That is known as uncoupling or inhibits. Uncoupler means this separates this compound from this. That is uncoupler. So these are some uncouplers and these are inhibitors. So there you have the chemiosmotic theory of oxidative phosphorylation, for which Peter Michel received the Nobel Prize. Coupling of ATP synthesis to respiration is indirect via H plus electron gradient. So the same thing which I explained, this is the chemiosmotic theory. So you see, this is actually the a dye has been attached to the ATP synthase molecule, the 5th complex ATP synthase molecule, and you give hydrogen ions and the ATP synthase moves and this dye also rotates. This has been captured on a camera. So thank you very much for this. This is the end of my thing. So I stop sharing. So do you people have got any questions? Any questions? Shambhavi, question?
স্যার বলছিলাম পিডিএফটা একটু প্রোভাইড করে
হ্যাঁ দিয়ে
দেবেন
দিয়েছি,
ভালো
ক্লাসরুমে আছে। ও এটার
ঠিক
পিডিএফ?
আছে হ্যাঁ এটা খুব ভালো ছিল প্রেজেন্টেশনটা
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
অ্যাকচুয়ালি
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, এটা দিয়ে দেবো। ঠিক আছে, নোটটা পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছি, নোট ইজ ইন দ্য ক্লাসরুম।
নোটটা দেখলাম বাট এটা অনেক মানে শর্টে ছিল এন্ড মানে কি যেন বলে ইজি টু অ্যাপ্রোচ ছিল তাই জন্য
ঠিক
ভালো
আছে,
এক্সপ্লেন ছিল।
পাঠিয়ে দেবো, ঠিক আছে, ওকে
ঠিক
দেন।
আছে হুম,
মানে মাই সিলেবাস ইজ কমপ্লিট, বাট ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ প্রবলেমস ইউ ক্যান কন্ট্যাক্ট মি, ওকে, নো প্রবলেম।
ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে।
ওকে।